Welcome to the Build It Better podcast. I am Robert Johnson. The podcast is powered by Global Haven Ventures, and I am fortunate enough today to have Matt Glasgow. Did I say it right?
You got it right.
I got it right. I didn't even practice that long and still got it right. Welcome, man. Thanks for joining us. And then I'm gonna ask you to tell me again what you woke up to yesterday. Now, you are in where?
We are just north of Toronto, about an hour and a half. And
Okay.
yesterday we woke up to 11 degrees Celsius. It rained most of the day, flooded everything, and then woke up this morning to half a foot of snow.
Wow.
And everything was now frozen.
Now, the reason I said that is I am in Phoenix, Arizona, where it is supposed to be 103 degrees tomorrow. So we are sitting on polar opposites of the weather spectrum here. Just crazy weather right now, but that's clearly not what I wanted to talk to you about. Tell me a little bit about yourself, about your business, and kind of the whole getting into that, and what was the push there?
I think finding where I fit in the entrepreneurial spectrum, because I've always been involved in a number of businesses. While some of them have been successful and some of them have not been successful.
Sure.
It was after the pandemic, both my wife and I, she's my co-founder, we both left our roles with the financial services industry. So it gave me a real opportunity to we wanted to work together, and we didn't know what that looked like at the time. And we were doing some contracting, and we'd always been in the real estate game and flipping houses and, making betterments and buying and selling. And we were looking after, we sold through the pandemic in buying a piece of land and, building a home on it. Originally, we had this great idea that we'd build a garage with living quarters above it. And it really didn't work out because the municipalities don't love that. Land costs were crazy. We didn't want to overpay for something. So we just we took a step back, still knowing that we wanted to work together. Got into the contracting, and the reason I gave you the backdrop for the property and the land, because that's what inevitably drove us to Barndominiums.
Okay.
And so many other people have been driven to Barndominiums because of this. It's not just a Barndominium thing. It's definitely a custom home building thing. People want to get out of the city. They want to be mortgage free. They want to build their forever home, and they want to do it as affordably as possible too, in many cases. And that's how we landed on Barndominiums. And my wife said, we gotta go with this, because when you Google Barndominiums in the Canadian space, you got a number of pre-engineered steel buildings that kind of came up in the Google search. That's pretty much it. And we started by filling the gaps in what they didn't do, because the steel sales guys didn't want to hear about fireplaces or outdoor living or, where the site map is. They didn't want to deal with permits or interior construction drawings. So we just kind of came in solving this problem that needed fixing. And it kind of stuck with us. And
Now, explain to me more though. Now, so you said something about land and land being expensive, and what kind of the municipalities didn't like. And what about Barndominiums fixed that or fell into place for you there? And you said it's also happened for others. And so I'm just curious, drill into that a little bit.
So you unpack the Barndominium in general, like the first thing, people love it for a number of things. It's the only place that you find just as much shop space as you do heated or cooled living space.
Okay.
Right? One, they're damn cool. They're sexy.
Yep.
Like the steel siding, the steel roofing, the outdoor living space. It is kind of that class of people typically that are, looking to be on land, want to be outside of town, no fences, no HOAs, all that kind of stuff.
Gotcha.
And it gives the ability for the freedom of floor plan, because most barndominiums or post-frame buildings allow you to customize that floor plan as much as you want. And that's one of the benefits that we have. We can create a completely custom floor plan for a client by,
Gotcha.
hitting all the bedrooms where they want to.
Gotcha. So yeah, you get the look that you want of the barn dominium, and it's, for the lack of a better term, it's a big open space that you can fill with interior walls, ceiling heights, all the things that you might want, you can have in there. Very, very customizable. And it's interesting that you bring up, because I don't think a lot of people, when they think about barn dominiums, especially maybe here in the U.S., that it is a pre-engineered building. Primarily is what people, when they finally start reaching out to get into it, that's what they're finding. They're finding, you know, and of course we all see pre-engineered buildings, especially if you want to go live off of land and you've got some space, shops, and they're just a box with a, flat roof or a tilted roof. I mean, there is nothing sexy about that.
No eave
Roll up big,
extensions, like right to the gutter. Yeah.
exactly. And so this, and I will share, when this gets produced, I will share photos and some of the renderings of things that we can share to give them an idea of what we're talking about here. Yours are far from a pre-engineered metal building shop with roll-up doors and gutters on the eaves. Jump into a little bit more about what's led your taste in design, and why you've gone the direction you have.
So, and before we hit the design side, I want to
Mm-hmm.
kind of again continue to unpack that barndominium,
Mm-hmm.
because it is a pole barn. It is a pre-engineered steel building.
Yep.
There's hybrid approaches. There's people that only build steel barndos. That's all they do,
Mm-hmm.
and that's part of the community. Some people only want steel barndominiums.
Gotcha.
Some are very, I want that post frame building. We have a post frame division in Alberta, Canada, and there's appetite for that farm structure, which leads me back to the pre-engineered part, because I feel like at the end of the day, it's still pre-engineered. Even if it's a pole barn, it's going to an engineer. Someone's doing the drawings. It's just not being fabricated in a steel plant, right?
Yeah.
But I think what led us to the designs was the restriction of that pre-engineered steel building that is, a garage. There's a few subtleties we work through up front, rigid end frames, and what are the spacing of the girts, and that all kind of led to never doing a barndominium that didn't have an eave extension on it.
Gotcha.
Because steel can be affordable at that 312 pitch slope roof for here, snow loads and no eaves. It's essentially a garage, and we wanted to transform that into something that did have curb appeal, something that people did really want. Now, there's a few iconic barndos out there. I believe I've sent you the Fenland, that is a rectangle with a covered porch that breaks it up and gives it kind of a residential look on a big steel wall, essentially. So we started to predominantly look at what does the bungalow look like, and go from there, because, there is clients that are looking for certain, like I said, curb appeal or that view, water, forest, land, those kinds of things. And then there's those people that are they just want the finished living space because they've got kids and they need a place to live and they want to be part of the real estate market.
Yeah. Amazing. And your designs are from what many would say simple to really, very high-end, custom-looking structures that, I think anybody would appeal to, most anybody. Lots of glass, and again, like you mentioned, for the views, those people who knows where they're going to wind up. You've mentioned that you're in Canada, and barndominiums have picked up popularity in Canada, correct? I mean, that's kind of what some of this push for you has been, is that it's becoming a thing.
It is definitely, like they used to refer to condominiums as something strange and an outlier, and nobody's ever going to live in a condominium. And, like barndos are the same. And I think, there's Facebook groups with 500, 700,000 people in them. There's, it's a whole culture, it's a whole movement of people that want barndominiums. And, like I said, they're nice looking, they're functional. And I would go as far to say are they efficient? Yeah, they're efficient because they're built in today's standards by today's requirements of building codes. So, efficiency is never anything. Like, you get a new car today, it's probably better than the car that's 15 years old as far as technology and safety. And, that just kind of goes along with it. So, for us, we were so enthralled that there was appetite here for the barndominium. And so much so in our plans. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because it has been one of the drivers that has differentiated us across the board from any barndominium company. One, that we do all approaches to barndominiums, and two, that our designs are great and people love them. I mean, we get Poland, France, UK, you name it, which led us to having 3 distinct channels: one US channel, one Australian channel, and one Canadian channel. So truly a global barndominium company. Now in Australia, there isn't a ton of appetite for wood. It's all steel, right? That's what they're used to. They understand it. In Canada, it's new to them. It's new to the building inspectors. It's, again, Texas, some probably chief building officers in Texas have seen hundreds and hundreds of steel barndominiums. But up here, they still are a little bit new. We haven't had any issues in obtaining any type of permits, or they're just looking for that engineered seal. They want to know that the building's engineered.
Yeah, and I don't think that you will. I mean, I really don't think that you'll run into much kickback there at all. And I'm glad you went there, because that was kind of why I pitched you that softball, was to talk about that turning this into a being a global provider of the barndominiums. And I was just talking today with one of the folks in Australia about your projects, and they went on and on about how well they fit the prefabricated steel, cold form steel piece, which is how you and I got hooked up, and what we're still kicking the tires about and working into design. Let's talk about that, if we can, a little bit. Because you mentioned, and I think it's funny that you mentioned, because I was thinking about it. A lot of people, when they hear the term, when they hear the term barn, they think of what they've walked into as children. It's a drafty old building that's just, got some boards nailed on the outside of it. These are really energy efficient, insulated. I mean, they are a high performance building in today's market. And I think that's what's interesting about our connection, is that I think together what we're looking to do is to make it an even more high performance product and more enjoyable for people, in many aspects. Talk about what you've seen, and maybe what was kind of some of the drivers for you to even, chat with us about prefabricated light gauge steel.
So I would say the major driver for that, Robert, was centered around this past season of erecting pre-engineered rigid frame steel buildings. As you refer to it as red iron. We don't have red iron up here because everything's primed, right? Gotcha. Because it'll just rust on site. But it became challenging in a number of reasons. We were restricted from an engineering standpoint. We were restricted from being able to offer the client, even though we're doing the architecturals up front and sending them to the steel companies, they still weren't getting them right. And then, like I've always said, the steel companies can sell it, they can collect the deposit, they can manufacture it, they can deliver it, and they can put you in contact with someone that can erect it, but they can barely engineer it on time. And that for us, from an interior finishing perspective, was really kind of brought to fruition through the beginning of the tariff wars last year.
Sure.
So it was the retaliatory tariff specifically, because our steel was coming in from Pittsburgh.
Okay.
It was the retaliatory tariff that played a big role in our clients kind of exceeding typical costs. Along with that, the steel companies, told us it would be about $18 a square foot. That's about going rate up here in Canada for rigid steel. And that would be the same, I think, if it was a building that was 50 feet wide and 300 feet long with a couple of garage doors and a man door and a window. Up here, when you bring out a crew like that for 1,440 or 1,500 square feet, they got to mobilize, they got insulation, they got multiple windows and doors, they got, so it was also the erecting cost. So you combine the cost of the steel with the erecting costs, and it just made that pre-engineered steel building not an affordable approach unless the client wanted it. Now, we have a client that's, 7,750 square feet on the ground, 22-foot sidewalls, Scandinavian type look, 50 feet wide, 150 foot long kind of thing. And he wanted steel. He wants a steel mezzanine. He wants a steel interior liner. He wants, that's what he wants. But we also wanted to still offer steel because it's a big part of the barndominium community.
Sure.
So enter Robert, and having the ability to have some conversations about what options and what you guys are doing and what they're doing. They seem to be doing all over the world. We're just not doing it here.
Yeah.
We could talk regular home construction and bungalows and things like that. Obviously, my niche is in the Barndo market. I was thinking, okay, well, why can't we do panelized steel, cold form steel? Like, I see it everywhere. Why don't we have it here? And then, it just kind of drove us down this path to look at a better way for the client, a more cost-effective way for the client, combined with the slab on grade concept as a cost-saving driver to, we can only push the material so far. So how do we push the needle on time to build? How do we work while we're working? Because our team is then working on permitting. Our team is then working on excavation and underground and foundation while your team is building, so they can converge together at the same time. I think from my perspective, we've been going down this road since the IBS conference, and I've, had a lot of enlightening experiences just even talking about it more. Because there is no one else really in Canada that's obviously focused on barndominiums and focused on this preferred method of construction.
Yeah. Well, and I think what kind of we both have discovered through this, I felt like it was a good option from the beginning, but I think what we've discovered is that it gives your clients the same thing that they've essentially been, that drew them to it and that they're looking at. We can give them the exact structure that they want to look, that they want it to look just like this. That's great. It's going to look just like that, except they're going to have so many more capabilities with, insulation, with, interior wall configurations, with, interior, trusses and things, and making ceilings different angles or whatever. I think there's just so much more customization there, and the ability to get just a much more high performance building than a metal building. And again, I get what you're saying. Some people want the metal building look, and that's what they want.
Some people have already bought it. They don't have a choice. They already bought the building.
Yeah, more power to them. And so what I'm excited about is the ability to replicate what you're doing in Canada, in the US, and in Australia. I mean, that takes it even to another level. It really is exciting for us, and I'm hoping that it helps you get to that next level with the future. Speaking of future, so what is your future looking like? Explain to the folks, when we talk about this being popular, without showing your whole hand, how popular is it? I mean, how many people are really knocking on your door for a barndominium?
Well, we have about 12 to 15,000 people a month that visit our website. And
12 to
on average,
15,000 a month.
on average, they spend about 8 minutes, which is, I mean, we're not like an online shop, you know, it's not like click away. Some people click away, but I think there's a lot of people that are now understanding and exploring, and still the, you know, that veil is being uncovered and people are seeing them more and more and more. I think what excites me is that again, my kind of financial services background, I worked with fintech companies. So I worked investment proposals and goal-based planning for financial planners and investment advisors. So everything was always about client onboarding in the financial services industry, and the journey, the fact finding. And we realized very quickly that, you know, what we're doing here, 50% of the people that are reaching out to us don't own land and have a home to sell. So we created a distinct real estate division that is responsible for those initial phases, because we would send people away, say, hey, call me back when you sell your house, or call me back when you buy land.
Yeah.
But they had all these questions. So, and then obviously financing is a huge bit of everything. You know, so we created that financing division where we can help guide the client, because this is very transitional. It's not transactional. I mean, you want to sell a shell package. I want to buy a shell package. I'm going to ship it out to you.
That's the easy part. Yeah.
That's a transaction, but this is a transition for most people to, you know, their dreams and their hopes that they've always wanted to. So, and we want to help guide them through that every stage, so it gets to that point. So, you know, eventually we have the conversation of what is our approach to build, because like I said, you know, we offer multiple approaches, but what suits that client best based on their location, their geography, based on the trades that are available in those specific areas. You know, there's a lot of things. It's like, how do I fund my project? That's a huge thing for clients. And well, I don't want to be the guy that reviews your taxes and things like that. I need to have a general understanding of the approaches to funding the project. And so, you know, Barndo and Co. in itself is an entity that has these different channels, and the United States just fell into a channel. The Party Limited in Australia fell into a channel. The real estate and financing division fell into a channel in Canada, which, you know, we're looking to replicate. I mean, what excites me about the future is the United States. I mean, it's the single largest barndominium market in the world. We're in Australia, one, because there's appetite for it. Our group kicked off pretty quick. Barndominium Living Australia kicked off pretty quick. 6,000+ members to it, because, you know, it was new, it was fresh, it was exciting. Plus our grandkids live there, our daughter and our son-in-law live there. So that's definitely a bonus.
Sure.
But the States, the real estate model, because there's going to come a time, Robert, when all of these barndominiums need to be sold. They're going to have a transaction, and Barndo & Co. Real Estate wants to be the company that sells it, that lists it, that helps.
Yeah, see, that's wisdom. Yeah.
If we can't buy one for you, maybe we can build one for you, and then we can help you sort out the financing for those pieces, because, you know, the prefab world is something that typically most of our stuff is built on site. And I feel even though the wall systems are prefabricated, it's still built on site. It's not shipped in, you know, a ready to move kind of scenario, which I think people like as well. I think that's another big driver for you know, like everybody knows the prefab home or the modular trailer market. But I think that's for us, being global is important. You know, we've spent a lot of time talking, and Florida is rapidly approaching our next market. We're actively advertising there. We're actively having conversations. We have boots on the ground now, people there that can answer phones from a 408 or 401, you know, area code and understand the locations. So, and how we want to enter that market. Right now, typically all we're offering in the American space is kind of reverting back to where we started, which unfortunately worked, or I should say fortunately. Unfortunately, it doesn't bother me. It's just not a pre-engineered steel building. It's a cold form steel building, panelized, shipped to site. erected in just a few days, ready for whatever type of sheathing we want to put on it.
Yep. Yeah. It's to me, that's where I'm really excited. I think that we're going to open up a whole new trend here in the market, and it's interesting that you bring up this kind of typical way that people are getting into it. Just since we started talking, I've had probably a couple of other conversations with folks that were interested in barndominiums, but they were just one-offs, and it was those people that were kicking the tires, this is what I want. Oh, this is my dream.
Yes.
And we said the same thing to them. It's like, okay, well, how soon are you ready to start this? And they went, well, we've got to sell our home first. And, whatever we get out of that will tell us, how much equity we have in it, and we'll be able to put into another. And they started this whole thing again. And with both of them, I said, well, you know what? Why don't you kind of throw on the brakes of what you're thinking about? Let me introduce you to some people that can kind of walk you through all of that, instead of you getting on the phone calling some guy about the structure, but I can't tell you anything about the finishes. I can't tell you anything about the land that you're looking for. And so you're right. You're that one-stop shop for those people that want that barndominium experience. And
so much so that we're actually
cool.
We've drilled down to a very macro level of exactly what that client looks like, not who that client is, because we could both build the same 1,500 square feet. And
Yep.
I could spend another $100 a square foot, and you could spend $75 less a square foot. But it is that's what I kind of led with at the beginning. This isn't a barndominium thing necessarily. It's the I want to build on a piece of land dream. Yep. A lot of our clients are in that dream phase. They don't understand where to go. And we're actually just working on what we call the Barndo journey, which is kind of like up front, because, when I wanted to get into this, I realized very quickly that if you want anyone to take seriously, you got to have plans, you got to have land, and you got to have money. Otherwise, no one's willing to take you seriously. They're not willing to hear you out or give you some idea, because we know what the cost of land is. It's there. It's on Realtor, Zillow, whatever. It's right there. It is. What I don't know is how much it costs to build a barndominium, because they're working it out in their head on how much does it cost? How much do I have to pay? How much am I going to get from my house? What is my mortgage going to be at the end? Am I going to have a mortgage? In planning and design, doesn't matter if you called me today and said, I want to build, I've got land, I want to start tomorrow. And you paid us a down payment on our fee, because that's how we work as a fee for service company. I would say, okay, off the plan and design. You go to our team, you plan your barndominium, you design it, then we get the construction drawings and we approve the construction drawings, and then we stamp the construction drawings, and then we send it to Robert so he can do the estimate for the steel. Yeah. Right? Like, that's how that whole thing goes. So at the beginning of it, most people aren't in it. So it just means that 80% of the people I talk to are not ready to build a barndominium.
No.
But we're trying to get people under the impression that they understand that the best way to get there is, one, setting goals, being informed, getting a plan down on paper, and then we're looking at this, I wouldn't say exit strategy, but the strategy to work with them on financing the things that are challenging. We can always finance a whole construction project. In some cases, you can even finance land and build. But if someone wants to buy a shell package, let's say our balsam cold form steel package, ready, out the door, and let's say it's $92,900 with windows and doors. You can't get financing for that. The finance companies are not going to drive to site and pick up your windows and doors and your panels of steel, right? So what does that look like from working with lenders to understand that, we're actually trying to push the needle on affordable housing. We're not just talking about it. And how does that work from a financing perspective? Because, these are all things that clients don't know. And really, at the end of the day, I just want to see more barndos be built. I mean, that's what we talk about every day.
Yeah, and when we met you folks and your wife Shauna, and I got to yakking. Now listen, if people think you're passionate about it, she takes your passion level to about 2.5 to 3 times. Um, and one of the things I said to her, we were talking about is that a lot of people don't want to get into the business that you're in because of the emotional attachment and having to deal with that this is people building their dreams or are getting into all this, and it's just for people in the construction world, they're like, nah, I don't want to deal with that. I can build the thing. And when she started talking to me, and with the passion that she had about all of the pre-construction, pre-conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and really the drive to take that emotional connection out of it in the very beginning before you get even into the thing, just goes a long way to making it a a decision that you are very comfortable in making, and B, a process that is also going to be very enjoyable for you and not as emotionally driven as, say, you know, 60%, 70% of people's custom home building experiences. So you really come at it from a very different perspective that I think is going to uh, charm a number of people into the first barn dominium of their life. So
We
what
definitely are
else?
managers of emotion. Yes.
Yeah, no, that is exactly. Oh, and
Yeah.
I think maybe that was the term that she used, which I think is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So what's next? What's besides what we've talked about? We'll share some of the vision about the future of Barndo and Co.
Kind of did. I mean, the real estate and the way we're choosing to enter the U.S. market has been very
Hmm.
strategic. Actually, as of today, we just got our HCRA license. So we created another entity called Barndo and Co. Barndominiums Inc. We
Hmm.
removed Barndominiums from our trade name,
Hmm.
and so we have these different divisions: real estate, financing, Barndominiums, which is our custom home building entity, which I'm very excited about because there is still a few people that want that experience. You
Hmm.
know, it comes at a cost, and
Yeah.
I think what we've done on the Barndo and Co side, being ultra transparent with our clients, multiple estimates for each trade, sharing those estimates with clients, not buying a building from Global Haven and marking it up to sell it to them, was because that's the shrouded part of the industry, the part that's not transparent
Yeah. Yeah.
in the
Exactly.
typical the builder model. And we've won a lot of clients that way because we're open and we're honest and transparent. We'll behave the same way so to speak, from a custom home building perspective. We're
Hmm.
looking at a cost plus scenario,
Hmm.
fixed contracts, playing with the games, the home
Hmm.
warranty, like it was the only thing we weren't doing, which allows us now to work with investors because we carry that vendor builder license.
Hmm.
So that opens up another kind of realm for business development for us, because I do, while I don't know that I wouldn't go as far to call it a passive home. I think passive homes are neat. I think it's expensive. I think that, it's someone's personal aspirations that make them want to have a passive home. I like to call ours low impact. I
Hmm.
think there's a huge market out there for people that want to own dirt. They don't want a Kwanzaa hut. They don't want a storage container. They want a
Hmm.
piece of land. They want to cut their lawn. And I feel the barndominium with us up here, anyways, on those
Hmm.
insulated thickened edge slabs,
Hmm.
a septic system, a drilled well. I mean, these are very low impact projects to land. So
Hmm.
I like to call them low impact, affordable if they want to be, because, I talk to clients about electric hot water heaters and laminate countertops and $850 tub surrounds, because
Yeah.
that's what fits into their budget.
Yeah.
We also talk about in-floor heating and
Mm-hmm.
enhanced installation and, additional power generation on site. If that's,
Correct.
we do have a client that's been off grid. So I think the evolution of our business, Sean and I have spent a lot of time over the last couple of years creating these channels and these silos that benefit our core business so we can really start to grow. Sean owns another company. It's called Barndominium Living Company, and they're working on trade shows that are dedicated to the barndominium industry. Not quite as big as the IBS, but same kind of principle. And that gives us the ability we want to make barndominiums a thing. Like, they're already a thing, but we want, like, it's a lifestyle thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
So custom home building, definitely. We're looking at a builder partnership program. Like leveraging that local organic thing. We need real estate, right? Like pairing a real estate agent and a builder partner inside of a community where we get this very like organic, rooted kind of, or like, I want to say organic again because it is. It's just like, hey, we can build barndominiums in Wish-Wash, Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like that's.
And you kind of get that whole that whole barn raising vibe, where the whole community comes together and stands up the walls, and you kind of get that feel about your build.
Yes.
Yeah. It's a really, really cool. And vibe's a great word for it. Of designing and building these, and I think that it can't be anything but successful.
They just fit. Like 70% of our clients are like generational. They're either moving back to land and putting an ADU or a smaller barndo at the back, or we got a 2-story, 2,400 square foot separated with a garage and an in-law suite on the back. I mean, that's where the real estate has driven them. They're all selling their homes and they're building a barndo, and I think that's again part of that lifestyle thing.
Yeah, it absolutely is. It absolutely is. And there's so many places in the country that these are going, probably already are moving that way, but will be even more popular.
Family compounds.
Exactly. No, that's another thing that was a thing back probably when I was even a kid or a teen. Family compounds were fairly common, especially where people out could own land, but it's really gotten away from it. And I think there is a real desire as people, grow their families and then they get into the age where they want to retire and say, hey, great, I've got some land. Now, all of my kids and grandkids should have a place to come up here. And man, what a perfect idea.
That's what Shauna says, age in place. Right? Because everybody comes to us and says, I want to downsize. I want to, the single floor living. And John is always saying, because again, like we are still very active on the business development front. After 2 years, we just hired our first sales agent. And I shouldn't say sales agent. She's the director of our sales division. Like she is top down.
Yeah.
And we're very excited about that because it's still Shauna that takes the majority of the calls from the client, the business development. And then they land on me for estimation and negotiations into becoming a client, So we're still very heavily invested in, again, our passion exudes that way.
Yeah, no, it really does. And I think anybody that reaches out to you will sense it immediately, and not just from the two of you, but from even the staff that I've met. You get that same feel, and everybody's just as excited about it, and just as excited about getting people in barndos. So, what haven't we talked about that you want to talk about? Is there anything that we've missed here?
Again, I think we should just kind of bring it a little bit back to the whole reason that we're on this. I mean, like you're talking about build it better, right? Absolutely. And it's, not centralized to the theme of building necessarily. I think that it's more unique to talk about our relationship and what that looks like, because again, like literally it's in your name, Global Haven, like it's in the name. And maybe like I'm still learning, right? I'm still fresh on the cold form. Like I said, it's not up here, and we want to be the first ones to bring Barndo's cold form to the Canadian space. Tariffs are not, like it's happening.
Yeah, it's going to happen. There's enough people to make that happen.
Right. So I think, it's for me, it's about exploring the limitations of what we can do with the tools that are presented in front of us. It's like a golf club, right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's so true. And I think then that it's important to talk briefly about what building with the prefabricated cold form steel is going to bring you. It clearly brings, and for many, they don't think about this until it's too late, but it affords you to be able to build with a completely non-combustible structure. And I'm not just talking about your exterior walls. I'm talking about your interior walls, your decking, your sheathing, a completely non-combustible, which is becoming a bigger and bigger issue when it comes to insurance and what that does to your insurance costs. So we're all talking about affordable housing. I can't think of a better way to make it more affordable is to drive those insurance costs down that are going up because of the number of traditionally built wood frame homes that are now being destroyed by the hundreds, by the thousands, because of just natural disaster. Not to mention those that are in high, pest zones that termites and carpenter ants and things like that get a hold of. So, I mean, that's one of the things that people are going to be able to look forward to. The other is, the ability to really heavily insulate and create thermal breaks and really make these a very energy conscious choice. You mentioned, people in passive house and net zero building and all these things that are becoming big buzzwords. You're right. I get hit with it all the time, and it drives me crazy. And I'm like, that can be incredibly expensive to do, and it's always a choice. It's just like you mentioned about how some people they want to spend the money. They don't. This is what I want, and this is
I've got
the money to spend.
geothermal.
Whatever it is, it's what I want. So I'm going to pay the money for it. That's fine. But there's a lot of people out there that cannot afford that. But we still want to provide them with an exceptionally high quality build and something that is going to, help them via, their electric bills and heating and cooling and things of that nature.
I mean, it's just to touch on a few of those things. Since I've been starting, in this U.S. steel business, and it was leaving the IBS, where I looked at my wife and I said, we're a global steel company now, like whether we like it or not. And I've been saying in Canada, I don't want to sell kits, I don't want to do all this stuff, but the reality is that that's where we are now. And there's a number of people that I've spoken to over the last, 6 weeks that have said some of those multifamily dwellings, 4-story, or anything that's government related is going to be mandated that it needs to be non-combustible. It needs to be done out of steel because they don't. And then I think about California. That's another massive steel market. I mean, they've been building with steel in San Francisco for years, and very nice, very architectural design, cantilever type houses, flat roofs and stuff like that. There's been some companies that have come up, and then there's been some companies that have disappeared in that industry. But I mean, there's benefits to it. And from a technology standpoint, I think it's, you just, as we, you schooled me a couple times, and I'm not a pro wood guy. I just know what I'm seeing in the construction landscape today yesterday and
Yeah.
tomorrow. But you definitely have validated some definite benefits.
Well, you know, we get a lot of discussions, have a lot of discussions in Florida. Florida is a big market for prefabricated light gauge steel, cold form steel, big market, because you know there a lot of what they've been building with for many years is CMU, or you know, concrete masonry, concrete block, and it's expensive.
Two
And
stories. I just drove one
yeah,
by a couple weeks ago.
and it's ugly. You know, I mean, it's just a box, and I mean, you know, there's all these things that go with it. And cold form steel is now there to give people an option to get back to building things that look more traditional, but still get them that non-combustible
Feel.
requirement that they have to have.
Well, and that's why you engineered everything that we're going to do at Miami-Dade, 180 mile an hour
Yeah.
wind
Yeah.
loads. And then, you know, you combine that with, so I'm sure you're familiar with ICF.
Yep.
I remember when ICF was just coming out, everybody's
Oh, I
like,
do
oh,
too.
what's ICF? I've never heard of it. Now people are building complete homes, or,
Yeah.
you know, 30% of the market is doing ICF foundations in their basement.
Yep.
And I feel cold form steel is there here in North America. I feel it's already there in Europe.
Oh, yeah. See, and that's the thing. And you said this kind of when we started, is that they build everywhere else in the country with this. It's just the U.S. that's lagging behind. And we can even get more specific. The East Coast of the U.S. it's much more prevalent along the East Coast as it is in Western U.S. Western U.S., it's still, people, you know, don't understand it. You don't see a lot of it. You know, it costs more, they think. I mean, there's just all these things. But you mentioned California and the fires, the wildfires. I mean, we're talking about areas that the insurance companies have come out, major insurance companies, Allstate, Farmers, and have said, we're not going to insure homes there anymore. We just can't do it if you're going to build back combustible. And you can drive through there today and see people building back with lumber. And I'm like,
yeah.
Now I get it. If you're going to self-fund and you don't need to take out a mortgage and you're not going to have to insure your structure and you want to build back with wood, okay. I'm not anti-wood. It just doesn't make sense to me to build in high fire areas.
Yeah.
And many of those in Canada. I was in Vancouver a little over a year ago.
Yes.
And they were telling me it's become a massive issue. You know, the wildfires and fire danger and you know, the need to, and when people finally start to understand that this is not a building product conversation, it's not a wood, steel, dirt, block, you know, ICF. It's
Ram
not
dirt.
that. Yeah, it is a discussion about making decisions early on that make you and allow you to have a better product in the end without all the problems and having to shave, you know, the studs in your home because the walls have gotten crooked during construction. And you know, there's all these things, that decisions being made and about what building components to use and what systems to use just make that downstream building just so much better. Less risk, less contingency. I mean, I don't even know the last time that I've put a contingency in a number. I just don't do it because we don't build expecting risk. We take all that out in the design early on. So
Great
yeah,
point.
it's kind of the whole thing that's got us chatting, and I think again, I'm just really excited to be a part of it. I think we're really, you know, kind of going to start a trend that's that you may be the first one to really start kicking that ball, that can down the road. So.
Well, we've kind of led with what we've seen over the past couple of years. Like I said at the beginning, one iconic barndominium, which is our Fenland model. Again, 14-foot sidewalls, 1,200 square foot garage, 2,000 square feet of heated living space. To the one that most people reach out to us, which is the Balsam, to the one that most people build, which is the Halton, because it's 1,800 square feet. It's got 4 bedrooms. It's super easy, no window walls, to the one that we're building the second most about, and that's just 1,200 square feet, 30 by 40. I mean, that is the reality. That's why we started the custom home building, because we want to use cold form steel as an approach to build our custom barndominiums, right? Yeah. But no one's looking for a 1,200 square foot custom home in that fashion. And I think that for me, I think it's just continually evolving. Just like the conversation evolves, the approaches to building evolve. Not from, like, we have best practices of what we should be doing. I mean, there's the code, the National Building Code, the code in each state, the code in each province here that drives how we have to build based on energy efficiencies, essentially, which will change, which means we will need to make them more efficient, or we will need to make them non-combustible, or we will need to do this to conform to get the approval to build. But it's also a best practices scenario, and I'm a firm believer in best practices because they don't exist. What is the best way to deal with a client when they have questions about spray foam versus fiberglass?
Yep.
What is the best approach? There's this channel down the middle, and again, that comes from my financial services background, because there's governing bodies telling you what you can and can't do, but there's no one saying this is the best approach for you. And I think we need more conversations like this. We need more, not the National Frame Builders Association of America, or, like all of these things that are, like you said, you put it perfectly. This is not to drive product. This is to drive awareness and education.
Yeah, exactly. And you brought this up, and I'd like to just tag this in before we close this down, that people you're looking for, and one of the big things is affordable housing now. Well, as you said, not a lot of people are wanting to build, 1,200 square foot or 1,800 square foot barndos, maybe, or something to that effect. But think about how with your model that and the partnership that Global Haven Ventures has begun with you, in that utilizing our manufacturing partners, we can have the designs done and printed anywhere in the country without having to go through a design, a this, a that. And literally, within weeks of having an approved building permit, wall panels can be showing up on site, and you can be building very affordably. Because you didn't have to engineer it again. You didn't have to. There's so many pieces and parts there that were taken out of that system. And for the sake of conversation, the wall panels could have been sitting in one of these shops for 4 months, waiting for that next customer. I mean, it makes this. Man, I don't want to use this term. It almost makes this like the Home Depot for your building components. And again, it's a poor choice, but I think it paints the picture. Man, it's a Robert, hey, I need a XYZ. Okay, great. Well, here's a PO, and bam, we're sending a file, and people are printing walls while you're out, starting to shove dirt and clear land and get the thing ready to build. So,
and I just want to say, yes, absolutely. That I did say the 1,200 square foot, but in reference to that, it was about like nobody wants to build from a custom home building perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
But that Georgina that we had estimated, we're putting them in as ARUs. We're putting them in on land. We're putting them in individually in residential markets. We're building 5 of them across the nation, because it's a sweet spot for what I refer to as the underserviced market, right? That, in my case up here, it's 450 to 500,000. In your case down there, let's say it's 300 to 400,000, because our real estate markets are very different. But yes, rinse and repeat. Let's solve the problem for people, so we can actually, like I said, do more about affordable housing, not just talk about it.
Yeah, I agree. Your website, barndoandco.ca.
Yes.
Did I say it right? BARND as in dog, OANDCO.ca.
Correct.
Barndoandco.ca.
You can't use that ampersand sign in the
No, that's why I
email
wanted to make
addresses
sure
or the web
to
addresses.
spell it out. Well, buddy, man, I thank you for taking the time. We tend to talk for at least once a week. Let's not make this our once a week call, but thanks for coming on, and let's do something special.
Absolutely. Love it. Thanks for the invite. Anytime, Robert.